Chapter 10, Sales and Lease Contract. This is a complicated chapter, so it required when I studied sales and lease contracts in law school, I had to read the chapter 3 or 4 times because it is complicated. There are definitions. We're going to work through this fast so you'll know the answers for the questions on the final. Question number 1, a court can refuse to enforce a contract that the court deems to have been unconscionable at the time it was made, and that's true. Some of the questions are just common sense, and I think that's probably one of them. If a court deems that a contract is unconscionable, it's going to be, you can refuse to enforce that contract. Question 2, a firm offer by a merchant may be oral, and that's going to be false. On page 299 of your textbook, a firm offer, the definition must be signed and written. Contracts dealing with goods through merchants are different. Question number 3, a merchant is a person who deals in goods of the kind involved in the sales contract, who holds herself or himself out as having skill or knowledge peculiar to the practices or goods being purchased or sold, and that's the exact definition, and that's true. Question number 4. Big Beef Incorporated raises calves to sell. Big Beef breeds its cows in April, and the cow's calf in February of the following year. In January, Andrea contracts with Big Beef to buy 50 calves. Identification, and this is a term you're looking for in your chapter. Identification takes place in April when the calves are conceived. Goods must exist and be able to be identified as the goods that's being sold in the contract. So here it's in April when the calves are conceived. The next question, Big Red Drinks Incorporated contracts to buy 2 tons of cranberries from Superfruits Incorporated. The contract states that Superfruits is required to ship the cranberries to Big Red Drinks by Speedy Wind Air Freight. The contract it's a shipment contract. So on page 309 of your textbook, it talks about the requirements of the seller. And here, in any shipment contract, the seller is required to ship the goods by a carrier. And the seller assumes liability until the product gets to the carrier, and then the liability transfers to the carrier. So one thing to remember that I think that you'll use for the rest of your career would be that all contracts are assumed to be shipment contracts unless they're specified otherwise. So if you enter into a contract to sell goods or to sell a product, your liability ends, say you're shipping it with UPS, it ends when you deliver the goods intact to UPS unless it's specified otherwise in the contract. Question number 6. Flavor Bean Coffee Company agrees to buy an unspecified quantity of coffee beans from Global AgriCorp. Global breaches the contract. That's going to be big. It tells you specifically that Global breaches the contract. In Flavor Bean's suit to obtain relief, the court will most likely, and the correct answer is, have no basis for determining a remedy because no quantity can provide a basis for remedy. And you see here, even though the contract has been breached, there's no quantity provided. So in essence, there's not a good contract to even breach because the court doesn't know how to make this person whole again. It could be 1 or it could be 1,000,000. So without vital information like that, there's really no valid contract to even breach. Question 7. If a contract between 2 parties contains ambiguous phrases, the parties may ask the courts to help deconflict the phrases. To do this, the courts may accept evidence of consistent and additional terms only. So if a contract's ambiguous or confusing, the court may accept evidence to make it less confusing. And that's kind of a common sense question also. Next question. Gail enters into a contract with High Price Appliances Incorporated. In a suit between the parties over payment under the contract, Gail claims that certain clause is unconscionable. If the court agrees, it may enforce, limit, or refuse to enforce the contract or the disputed clause. So that one, if the court agrees that there was overpayment in the contract, the correct answer is enforce, limit, or refuse to enforce the contract or the disputed clause. Question 9. If a person cannot pay his or her debts as they become due or ceases to pay debts in the ordinary course of business, they are considered to be in what condition under the UCC? And it's going to be insolvent. That's the exact definition. And they're insolvent. They're not able to pay the debt. Question 10. In a destination contract, the buyer is required to deliver the goods to a particular destination. And that's going to be false. They're required to deliver it to the carrier. It's in that sense, it's the same as the shipment contract we discussed earlier. So the question 11, Jackson owns an antique store. He sells a grand piano to Fred for $5,000, an old jukebox to Sam for $499, an antebellum chest of drawers to Josephine for $659, and a gold ring to Wendy for $999. Which of Jackson's sales must be in writing to be enforceable? And the correct answer is the grand piano, the chest of drawers, and the gold ring only. We're going to refer back to the statute of frauds in this one and the $500 mark. So you're not going to have to the jukebox for $499 is not going to be required. And again, that one, if you understand the statute of frauds, you'll understand the question. Question 12, Jason contracts with Golf Carts Unlimited Incorporated to buy 5 golf carts. The contract lists the 5 golf carts as, and it gives numerical identification numbers for each golf cart. Identification, and that's just that has taken place. So identification is like the one with the calves earlier. Here, identification has taken place. Question 13, Megan, an agent for a department store, orders 100 dresses from Sal's clothing shop for the spring blossom sale. There's no specific agreement in the sales contract indicating when the title will pass to the department store. The title will pass to the department store when? It's when Sal's clothing shop physically delivers the dresses to the department store. When they receive the goods, that's when the title will pass to them. Question 14. Mike is a farmer who plants his crops in April that will be ready to harvest in September. In March, he signs a contract with a local buyer to sell them his crop. And after it is planted, the buyer can take certain precautionary steps because they now possess what? Well, now they possess an insurable interest in the crop, right? Yeah, they possess an insurable interest in the crop. If you look at like parole evidence, it's like evidence like oral made outside the contract, written for the contract that takes precedence. So that's not, you can eliminate that one. I was just looking at that as one that was marked as a possible answer, but the correct answer is insurable interest in the crop. Question 15. A local high school orders 15 pairs of basketball shoes from Foot Basket before the season begins. Foot Basket delivers the shoes to the school's gym. This is most likely a sale of goods. So that's simply a sale of goods. Question 16. Perfect Potato Chip Company makes an offer that Snack Foods Corporation would like to accept under the mirror image rule relating to an offer and acceptance. And acceptance, and the correct the answer is must include only those terms and conditions contained in the offer. So in the mirror image rule, I think we discussed this a little in detail earlier. The contract accepted is exactly the way it was written and exactly with no modifications. So it just mirrors the offer that's accepted. You can't change it in any way. Question 17. Lester is a real estate broker for Cheap Acres Land Company, and he writes correspondence to Manny on October 12th with the following information. 2-acre plot in the new subdivision will be sold to Manny for $6,000 between October 15th and November 15th. This correspondence is the correct answer is a firm offer. The promise to keep an offer open for a specified amount of time. So here you've got a firm offer because he's saying that he said that no one else can buy that from October 15th to November the 15th. So it's a firm offer, an offer to keep that open for a specified amount of time, and that's the amount of time. Question 18, what largely governs international contract? And that's going to be the CISG. The CISG. Question number 19, which of the following is not an element of a consumer lease under the UCC? That's going to be total lease time that does not exceed a maximum of 10 years or 120 payments, and that's at the beginning of your chapter. The reading and the information on that's at the beginning of your chapter. Question 20 is also just a little note that was included on here. Which president said, I am for free commerce with all nations? And that's going to be George Washington. George Washington. Okay. That's chapter 10. I think the next chapter is chapter 12 as far as quizzes are concerned. So we'll move on to chapter 12, I believe. And you'll be ready for that final before long. Thank you.